Hello, guys, and welcome to Comic Book Weekly. And we are here to talk some comics because there is no comic book news this week. This is a first, like ever, I feel. I don't think we've ever not had any news pieces to talk about.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like usually we'll have, when we say there's no news, we'll have at least like 2 or 3 pieces. There's Mike.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike's here just in time. We literally just started the show.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So we were just saying that there's no news pieces. So we're just going to get into the books. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do a Q&A. So get those questions ready. We'll talk about that because there's also not a lot of books out this week.
Yeah. We do need to address one thing before we do get started.
Right. Yes, yeah. Yes.
So we talked with Michael earlier tonight, and he's made a decision that he is not going to be returning to the show. And it's nothing negative at all. It was completely amicable thing. It was something with his passions are headed a different direction. He's focusing more on the gaming side of things, and he's decided to step away from the show and Comic Frontline in general. And he wanted us to share that with everyone, that he's still going to be supporting the show and everything, and you guys can still check him out over on Dude of Rock. Is it Dude of Rock 18? Is that what it is?
I guess Dude of Rock.
Yeah, Dude of Rock 18. His YouTube channel where he does gaming and everything. And but yeah, we're gonna miss Michael, and he's always been a big part of this show and this channel and this family, little family of ours. So we wish him nothing but the best going forward. And so good things for Michael ahead.
For sure. Go check out his channel. He's got some good stuff over there. And like Brand said, we'll miss him, and we're happy we're able to chat with him before the show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good luck to you, Michael. Hopefully everything works out.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, we're gonna dive into the comics now. So weird.
I know, right?
Everybody leaving. We're here, Tevya. Are we not enough? But yes, we're gonna get into our under the radar. Yeah.
Sorry, I always put up the wrong banners now. I'm like off my game. This was Michael's segment. That's why I always. It's like, oh, Michael's gonna do that, but he's left it in our capable hands. So, yeah.
I gotta get my comics here. Hold on.
We're totally on top of our game tonight.
We had to start early because we're trying out posting on Mike's Facebook, and it doesn't allow us to actually know. One thing we could learn is that we'll actually start the Facebook later than it's announced. Maybe.
Oh yeah, that's
that way. If we're late.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We'll do that. We're learning things. Oh, there's Michael right there. Thank you guys for everything and your kind words. Don't forget to rock on. I'll do it for him.
He told us to rock on when he left us on our chat, so I'm glad he also told you guys to rock on.
Absolutely.
That's cool. And sorry I wasn't there to catch that meeting, Mike, in case he's watching. I literally just got back from work and trying to fit in a whole bunch of things. So,
what's up, Jimmy?
How's it going? I'm trying to see. There was also another comment from Jamie or Jaime. Yo, I'm not sure if you all know that the crossover will have a 1 per store foil. It's the McFarlane variant. So crossover is in the Image Comics crossover. Yeah. My local comic book shop is holding it for me, just spreading the news. Very cool.
Yeah, I did not know that actually. Yeah.
Me either.
Hey, did you guys, I have wound up getting some cool lights for the background. So you get ready. I'm going to light it up. Comic Book Weekly style. Let's see if I can get it to light up. Of course, it's not working. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Stylish.
Nice. So it'll be that color for our show.
Sweet.
Yeah, sweet, right?
Yeah.
I can change it to any different color, so it's kind of cool. A little bit different.
Absolutely.
We're being fancy. So see, we're trying to make the show even more professional. We got lights now.
I've got art on my wall now.
Yeah. I have the same art piece in the background that has nothing to do with comics. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It's not going to change. But you never know. Maybe it will. We also have a comment from AR Comics. Hey, Jamie. So someone commented said his books is in the same way. It looks like it got water. So Jamie had some water damage on his books. Maybe through the comic shop. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
You know what's been going on with my Marvel books lately is that they've been so like crappy that like I am reading them and the humidity in the air is making the pages wavy.
Really? I'm not on that.
Yep. Just the Marvel ones. Not
just
the
Marvel
DC,
ones.
not the independent, just the Marvel. So not only do you get fingerprints all over the Marvel comics now the humidity destroys them.
Marvel really needs to look into a new printer, I think.
I think so, but I'm sure they have a very good price for what they're getting, and that's why they're using the printer they have. But probably, maybe better quality could be used.
Yeah, maybe.
Just maybe. All right, well, we're going to go into Under the Radar. I don't know if Mike has an under. Did you have Under the Radar this week?
Maybe.
Did you? He might have most anticipated later, too. We'll see.
Maybe.
No, I have not really.
Not really?
Not really. I mean, I think I read 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I read 7 books this week because there wasn't that many that came out.
Yeah,
I only read 9.
Only 9. You read the most out of all of us.
I know, but that's because I got done and I still wanted to read something, so I went and found something else.
Damn. I read 6 books. I just counted. It's a really fun week. But next week we have tomorrow we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So I already saw people saying, "Oh, you got to talk about death metal." We don't talk about the books that came out today on the show because we have not read them yet. But next week, potentially we'll talk about death metal if everyone reads it. I have already read it, so we'll see if Mike and Brant reads it.
Yeah,
I might read it. Maybe.
No problem.
I probably will just because of
that's out tomorrow. That you said that's out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it might not happen actually.
Yeah.
There's so many books. There's like 20 books that I'm getting tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a.
I will say with death metal, it is very much about where DC is going. That's the only reason I would recommend it, just because it's like a lot of continuity stuff and reveals in that way. But but yeah, 20 books, it's a lot. Future State, I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot about too. So we'll see next week.
Cool. So I don't have Under the Radar. So if someone wants to go and talk about their Under the Radar, that'd be awesome.
All right. I guess I'll go. So Under the Radar for me this week was Power Pack issue 2, the book I was most looking forward to.
Not surprising.
And because this book, I guess, is so underrated. My store didn't even have enough copies to give me. So I had to read it digitally. Dang it. I know. I was like, I want to support my Power Pack, but I can't even support it. But I'm going to be getting it physically tomorrow. Hopefully they special ordered it for me. But anyways, this issue I actually thought was even in some regards even better than issue 1. Like I was on a high for issue 1 because I'm like, oh man, Power Pack is here. But I just had a lot of fun with this issue. It was them trying to find a mentor after all this outlawed stuff. And there's also like what I've been really impressed with is how they do continuity. Because I'm like, oh man, the continuity of the Power Pack is so confusing. And they actually are able to work it in of like how Alex is not actually 21. And
I love the way they worked that in. Yeah.
Right? It was so good. And also like I'm glad they made the age 21 because I thought it was 18 because you're an adult when you're 18. So I'm glad they made 21 to make it sense that, Julie's not an adult either. And it was just fun. They're trying to find the Hulk. We got Julie Power having her crush on Captain Marvel. I love that. Both our panels for this week for me and Brant. It just was really cool. And then we find out the wizards behind it all. So it's just like old fashioned Marvel fun. Yeah,
absolutely. And it felt like a little bit of Runaways in there too. You get some of that with what's his name? What is it? Agent Aether or something like that.
Oh yeah, there was I even mentioned that in my review. So the guy who's helping them out, which ends up being the wizard, you're like, there's something up with him. What's going on?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You find out he's the wizard.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. I just saw that comment.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it too, and that whole age thing, the way that's like one of the problems I had, and they explained that right away, and I was like, okay, that made sense. I can accept that. That's fine. But yeah, I actually like this issue better than last issue. Because I had a problem like with the way last issue began. I thought it had a slow start, but this one, it was just like from start to finish, just every element of it with the humor and the excuse me, I'm getting a little choked up.
Because it's so sad. The issue.
I know.
Julie
so sad.
could not meet Captain Marvel. It was really
that was very sad. And they couldn't get the Hulk, and it wasn't possible. They couldn't meet Thor. They couldn't even talk about Thor, Frog Thor. So it was a lot going on, a lot of drama for the kids. But no, it was a really good issue. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We have a lot of comments, so thank you guys. We do have a question from Jay. He says, "Does the comics influence your?" I guess he just means, do comics influence your daily life? Yes. Right.
We just got a super chat.
Oh, thank you. We'll read this out and then we'll go back to that other question. So first, Bam, thank you so much. I just want Peter and MJ back together and have little Mayday. Is it too much to ask for a Spider family? Please, Spencer and Marvel, don't tease us. I would love to see Mayday, obviously. Yeah. I do think it's too much. Well, we're going to get to that. We will get to the One More Day stuff very soon.
I think we'll get to just more than that when it comes to Spider-Man at this point, too.
Yeah. Oh, we have a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely get to that. But thank you again for that, Bam. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But yeah, going back to the other question, does it affect our everyday lives? Yeah, because we all kind of work in it. Mike, he does his YouTube channel. I work for Newsarama. I work for DC Universe. I write comics, and Brant writes comics. He letters comics. So yeah, of course, it definitely influences
this our. Is huge. Yeah, it's when you do. When you and Brant do what you do when it comes to creating your comics, and Brant has his own publishing company, think about the time that it takes to do that in itself. And when you do a YouTube channel in itself, as much as I do, I try to do videos like 4 times a week. I try, and there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And if you guys follow my channel, as long as you have, the type of editing and the videos that it does. And when you do like 4 of those, there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of planning and all that other stuff. So plus you got to read all those books, because we do this show every single week. So there's a lot of planning that goes in place for that too. So yeah, it's a very dedicated thing. So I want to say it impacts our lives tremendously.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what Kat said, I've been working in and around comics for almost 20 years now in different capacities, whether it be lettering or design or working on other news websites and different things like that. It's been like pretty much 90% of my life for the past 2 decades. So it absolutely has a huge impact on my everyday life.
We have another question kind of pertaining to this, which is a good question from Tevia. Are you afraid of burning yourself out? Yeah. Right?
Every day.
I think it's learning how to balance. And I've always said this. It's I learn and try to learn every day what I can handle and how to take breaks. And it's also hard when me and Brant always talk about this. It's hard when your job is also your hobby. So for me, I try to find other hobbies. That way it's just like, okay, I don't want to monetize this. And I just want to like have fun doing this. So like a lot of times when people ask like, oh, did you watch that movie that's not related to whatever? I'm like, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want it to be part of my job. Like if I watched Soul, I rather just talk about it because I like them. Like I'm watching the movie for myself, not because I'm reviewing it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing like with video games or, I'll often, like Kat and I were talking about this the other day, we'll often watch something that's completely not comic at all. And it's just something completely different, whether it's a drama or a comedy, whatever, just to kind of decompress from that world and, separate ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. And I know when it comes to me, like obviously I teach tennis, so that's a big part of my life. And then doing this is just something probably would have dreamed of doing for years, is doing a YouTube channel, like discussing comics with everybody. And like I said, it is a lot of work. But that's why I try to space some things out, so I give time for myself. And I look at it this way: if I haven't burnt out yet when it comes to the YouTube thing, I don't think I'm going to burn out, because maybe a lot of you guys haven't known, but we have been doing our YouTube channels in one shape or form for a very long time. And it's
a decade, I would say. It's probably been about 10 years.
Close to it, if not,
yeah. You know, and I've had 2 separate channels, and Kat, you've had your channel this entire time. And I think the toughest thing is figuring out YouTube on how it worked and how it works and how to be a little bit somewhat successful at doing it. And that's always the biggest challenge. More than anything, I think more than burning out is, are you wasting your time? I think that's kind of the thing you got to look at it.
Yeah, and how to utilize social media. I know that was it's weird to say my New Year's resolution was and is to be better at social media. And I think most people with their New Year's resolution is like, well, no, I'm not going to use social media. But like for me, like I recognize like I have to just to sell my book and to do everything. So it's how do you balance being authentic to yourself and not sharing too much, but also sharing enough that people feel like they're like peeking into your life and want to watch your social media besides just say, check out this. Like you have to make it more engaging. Like how do you create an engaging social media with being yourself, but also like not giving too much. And I think that's kind of the balance I've been trying to find and continue to try to find, figuring out what, you know, like Mike said, the analytics of YouTube, how that works, and analytics of Twitter and Facebook. And yeah, that's definitely hard. And it's always going to be a balancing act, but I guess also trying to do it for yourself as well. Like, I think that's always hard for social media is like, oh, I know this is going to get traction, but do I personally care about doing it? And that's also trying to find the balance of it. It's like, I know I could put this video up and maybe get 1,000 views, but do I personally care to talk about it? So yeah, trying to find the balance of that.
Yeah. And then when you look at comics as just a whole in general, like if it's influenced me as a person, like absolutely. Like comics is a big part of who I am. I've read comics ever since I was a little kid, before any of all this stuff existed. You know, Peter Parker was always an idol to me. SpiderMan was always an idol to me. Like it's because of those characters why I care about comics so much, you know. So
absolutely.
Yeah, these are really great questions.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
I see we even have some more great questions. We're going to do one more under the radar so we can like try and mix in questions and comics, but we'll do Brant's and then we'll get to some more questions.
Yeah, I'll keep mine short because I think I'm the only one that reads it. Dungeons and Dragons at the Spine of the World #2. This is it's co-written by a former wrestler, AJ Mendez, and Amy Garcia. So that's kind of why I tried it out, and I'm a big fantasy fan. But I think this is one of the better D&D books that they've put out in recent years. I've tried them all, but this one, like, it has that kind of classic feel where these characters get together and form a party and go on a quest, and that's exactly what's happening with this issue. They decide to go search for this lost city to find this vegetation to feed this town that's kind of starving because of this deadly winter, and they, you know, encounter this massive threat. So it's been an enjoying series so far. I'm enjoying it. I like this issue a lot, so that's why it's there.
Awesome. I'm gonna mark down 2 questions here, and then we'll go to some big books. But first up, Dan, if you could choose to be an exclusive writer for Marvel or DC, which would you pick? Ooh, I mean, I feel like you guys might know the answer, right? Yeah, you can only write for one.
Here's the answer. If I had an offer, I don't care. I would pick either one. It wouldn't even matter. Like, go on. If I was that good and I had a choice, it would be Marvel, of course. That would be my answer.
Yeah, same for me. I like Mike. I've been a Spider-Man fan most of my life, so yeah, it would definitely be Marvel. But again, like Mike, either one I would take in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I think we all know enough about each company, and I definitely have stories I would want to tell from both companies. But yeah, Marvel for me, just because I feel like there's more characters there I have to say stuff about. Not that I don't have stuff to say at DC. I think there's a lot of great characters. Would love to write a Stephanie Brown comic one day. But yeah, there's so. I grew up in some regards more with Marvel, so I just feel like there's pockets of stories I would really like to tell there.
Yeah, can I answer Midwest Punks?
Yeah. I was gonna go that one next.
Yeah,
so
okay. I've always loved the Forgotten Realms, so I might check it out. You definitely should. I'm a big Drizzt fan, and this particular series takes place in Icewind Dale, so you should be very familiar with that location. So yeah, I think you'd like it if you're a Forgotten Realms fan.
And also Midwest Acts, and we're going to go to the super chat next. Thank you again, Bam. That's amazing. Thank you. I want to become a comic book writer, but I don't know what to write. Do you guys have any recommendations on where to get ideas to start? This is cool because I feel like most questions people ask about this is just like how do I become a writer? So this is kind of like a different way to ask that question. Like, how do you find inspiration? I say figure out what you like in storytelling, like what kind of what you're drawn to. But at the same time, look into yourself and figure out what can I tell that someone else is not telling? Like, what experience have I had in my life that can maybe help someone, or just whatever, that I'm the only person who could tell this story. So I think it's kind of a mixture of both.
That's pretty cool that you said that, because I was going to kind of say the same thing. Like, what genre of writing do you like? Do you like fantasy? Do you like horror? Is there things that happened in your life that you can relate to, that you can put in your writing as well? So you definitely made some good topics there. Like, even though I'm not a writer, that would be that's what I would do if I was writing a book or any type of story, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with both of you. Drawing from your own experiences is always a great place to start. And as far as where to find inspiration and that kind of thing, I find inspiration all over the place. It could be a show I'm watching, a book I'm reading, something that happens in my everyday life. I actually woke up in the middle of my sleep last night, and just this idea came to me that was just like a spin on a classic fairy tale. And I'm like, okay. And I just wrote it down on my phone and went back to sleep. So I just, inspiration comes from everywhere. But yeah, definitely put yourself into it and explore those genres. And you can think about how you can kind of modify a genre to fit the kind of story that you're wanting to tell. So if you're a big fantasy fan, but you got this idea that's set in modern world, making an urban fantasy, that kind of thing. So
yeah, just again, see what you like about comics, see what type of stories you enjoy. We have a lot of great questions here, but we're gonna go to another. Well, no, first we're gonna answer Bam, and then we'll go to another comic, a big book, because we're gonna do Q&A all night. So please keep asking questions. But what big change in the comic book industry needs? Oh my God, we're living it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of living that revolution right now. Honestly, I'm being drop dead honest. It's to get more mainstream readers. It's to get the people who like those movies to read comics, and to people who love webtoons and love mangas to read comics.
Yeah, it's just to get more people to read comics. I mean, just in general, get them in people's hands, and we talk about it. And we as physical comic readers, since we're old school, we love the physical aspect of the comic book, right? But not everyone can get that physical copy. So what do we have to do to get people reading comics all together? So if somehow we have the digital available for everybody everywhere, then maybe more people have access to it. And the more access, the better it is. The other thing that I would like to see is, with that, though, do we need so many titles to read? Sometimes if you scale down the titles, make a quality product, then maybe it's not so overwhelming for the consumer and they have something that they might want to read. And also prices. We've said that so many times, that comics are too expensive. It should be an affordable hobby for anybody to read and want to buy, especially when everything is acquiring your attention. You can get free mobile apps that you can play for hours, right? Doesn't cost anything. Movies, you pay $10, $11, but it's 2 hours or 2.5 hours sometimes of your time. A comic book, sometimes you can read takes 5 minutes to read, and you just spent $4 or $5 on that comic book. So I do say that the big deal is the price of a comic as well.
Yeah, especially at the Marvel and DC level, because we know that their numbers, their cost is much lower than it is like for an independent creator to publish a comic, you know, and I don't know. It's just their price points are a little higher than they probably need to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys said some good stuff, so I don't have anything really to add to all that. So.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna go into some comics. We'll do 2 comics, and then we'll get into some really awesome questions here.
Wrong one. There we go. I'll get it right one of these days.
Never.
Never. No.
Okay, so we're gonna go into big books now, and so just a reminder: spoilers. Okay, we're not talking about today's books that were released. We're talking about technically, I guess, last week's comic books, if you want to go into it. So the first book we're going to talk about is Batman Annual Issue 5. So in this book, we wind up getting the I guess the origin story of Bayo, or Clown Hunter, on how he became Clown Hunter and what put him over the edge. I thought this book was interesting. I thought the story, you know, you had to tell this story. It was important. The artwork was a little funky in this story. I'm not going to lie. Some of the facial expressions were a little bit out there. But the way I found Bayo, how he got his costume, was quite interesting, right? I mean, he sits there and gets just a mask from one of the clowns, and he uses a broom, the bristles of the broom, and he just breaks it and he sticks it on a hat. Like, that's part of his costume, man. Like, I'm like, okay, dude. And you know, in the comic, they make it look so badass, and then here it is. It's just a freaking piece of broom on a helmet. You know, it's so funny. I thought it was an okay comic. It was kind of just there. I guess you had to explain his origin story at some point, right? What'd you guys think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was, like you said, it was there. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't the best origin story in the world. We kind of already knew. I mean, it was cool seeing him put the costume together and everything, and seeing exactly what happened with his parents, because I think we just knew that they were killed by the Joker, and Harley was there. And that's all we knew. So it fleshed that out a little bit, which was fine. I think the art could have been a little bit stronger, but you know, it was a decent story. It wasn't a bad story. I didn't regret reading it or anything like that. So
I did like how he lost his faith in Batman.
That was
me
nice.
Was more powerful than his parents getting killed, because that's just like, obviously Bruce can relate to that boy because that's what happened to Bruce. You know what I'm saying? And but I like how he lost that faith in Batman, and that's why he felt like he had to take matters in his own hands. So that's what made it emotional for him.
Yeah, I feel like, oh, you go, Brent.
I was just going to say, I had a problem with the way the Batarang got into the bat, just because hammering it through would not work. You couldn't get that through that bat.
Yeah, his costume makes no sense, but no physical sense. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this issue. I felt, I agree, the artwork was definitely what brought it down for me. But I like this idea of good and bad not being so black and white, for sure. And I like the mention again of Harley Quinn here, and just saying, like, in showing that she was kind of part of killing his parents. Like, how do you forgive someone like that? Even if she says sorry, is it okay to forgive her? And like, where's the line between that? And I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so not a bad book. It was pretty good, you know. I think most of the time when it comes to the Batman annuals, there's always some kind of meaning in there that you know, doesn't make it a worthless book. So what did Serenity say? Let's bring that up there.
Batman Annual, yeah, go for it.
Batman Annual was meh. Just like with the Punchline one shot, it ignored the most important question. How the heck did they learn to fight? I guess it's those video games. That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, like, I don't care kind of like how crazy or deranged that you get, you still have to learn to be a fighter. And he kind of had no problem swinging that baseball bat with that batarang in it, you know? So that he does make a good point there.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like you can't just be a random kid just going out there and you can hang with all these, you know, these murderers and stuff. It's
right.
It's a really good point. So.
It wasn't like he was an athlete or a football player, say like Cyborg or something like that. He was just a kid that literally sat around, played video games, and like helped at his parents' restaurant.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about it. We're going to dive into it. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 55. Obviously, this is our big topic. You know, we talked about Spider-Man last week when it came to his new suit. You know, we're getting closer to that each and every issue. And now this issue we have, which seemed like a very filler issue to me to begin with. I wasn't a fan of this particular issue. It's just more of like them digging up the past and everything else. And then at the end, you wind up getting Mary Jane, who plays a part in this. And we kind of don't know like what's going on with her. Like, supposedly it looked like she died, but then at the end of the issue, she's like being carried out by Peter, and she says, I got this, like, it's okay. And I kind of wish she didn't talk at the end, because I would love to see if she was actually dead or not.
Yeah.
Not that they would really kill her off, but I don't know. What did you guys expect that? What did you think of this issue? What do you think of Mary Jane and this topic that we're obviously going to talk about here?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to answer a question because Sweet Exorcist has been asking us a couple, and then we'll get back to Amazing Spider-Man. He's asking us why we haven't read Future State yet, and he's asking us why we've been a week behind on every DC book. So there's a couple of reasons we don't talk about Tuesday's books, and you know we get this question a lot. It's not because we're not caught up on books, like because we all always keep caught up on the books for the week. A lot of people don't read their books, and honestly, we don't read our DC books on Tuesday because there's not enough time in the day. I read my books on Wednesday. I go to the comic book store on Wednesday, and I personally don't like reading books digitally. So I rather go to the comic book store and get it physically. And I'm not going to go to the comic book store twice. It's 30 minutes away, my comic book store. So, and then also like the big reason I would say it's not just to be selfish, but it's to not spoil it for the audience. Like we love talking about spoilers and what actually happened in the book. So we rather wait that week. That way people have a chance to read it. So that's why we're not going to talk about Death Metal or Future State or ever really talk about a book that comes out on Tuesday, because we don't want to spoil it for you guys. Because I would say a majority of people have not read their DC books today, unless they're digital readers.
I still read like the current Marvel books today and all the other books that I still haven't finished. Like I still got to read those books. There's no way I have time to go to the shop today and pick up those DC books and then go to the shop again tomorrow. Like I don't have that time either. Like I can only go really one time a week. I don't want to go more than one time a week. That's detrimental to my wallet.
Yeah. And typically in a typical week, like Mike said, I'm still reading my books today, like before the show, to get all my stuff read for the show tonight. And I just still consider Wednesday being New Comic Day. I just disregard that Tuesday thing anyway. So that's
fine. and I don't think, and I hope it doesn't sound like it's laziness, because it really isn't, because we do so much for comics like throughout the week. So it's just like, that's why. It's just because we're doing all these other stuff and we don't have a lot. We're just trying to catch up during the week. So, it's also the experience of us. You know, we were talking about before, like we have a passion for comics. How do you not get burned out? I think a good thing is like still finding enjoyment in it. Even if it's your work, you don't want it to just be your job. Like I have to read a Tuesday because that's my job. It's like, no, like, I mean, sometimes I do have to read stuff for work because I have to do an article that day, but I won't read every single comic for work because I want to find some enjoyment. I want to like sit back and relax and read my books.
Yeah. Right. I also don't consider them being a week late, Sweet, because I mean, the rest of the books come out tomorrow. That's only a day's difference. You're still waiting practically the same amount of time for us to talk about those books. So,
right.
Yeah. So, but that's for the question. We really do appreciate it. And, you know, we always would love to clear the air on that one, because I know a lot of people want us to talk about Death Metal and all that, but I think there's more enjoyment to talk about that next Tuesday when we've all read it and got to soak into it as well. It's kind of cool, like, because I get to read comics on Wednesday, so it's also kind of cool to wait the week and see if that's changed at all, and be like, oh man, like, do my opinions change after you sit with it for a little while?
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to SpiderMan, sorry, because I just saw a lot of questions that we're going to go to the other questions too, but I just want to answer that. SpiderMan, I enjoyed it more than previous issues, and the whole Mary Jane situation, I'm a little confused by. Like, does she know One More Day exists? It seems like she does, but there's never, ever been inklings of that in her own series and previous issues. So is this just a new idea that came up in this issue? It's like, oh, I knew the whole time. I used to be married to Peter and we had a kid. So I don't know how to feel about it. And I do agree there's a lot of repetitiveness in the book, but I do feel like at least a little bit happened and it was a little bit more exciting than what we've been getting. So in that regard, I thought it was a little better than what we've been getting.
Yeah, I think it was a little better too.
Did I pause? I might have.
Did you? Or is it me?
No, you're all right. I think
I'm all right.
Kat, on my end, Kat, you're a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was just my end, but yeah, I think you are paused a little bit, Kat. We heard everything you said though.
Yeah.
And she's gone.
She's like, I'm not even dealing with it. I'm just signing off.
Yeah. So, but I agree with her. I think it was better than what we have been getting. And there was at least some interesting stuff that happened with Mary Jane. I'm not invested with this, Harry versus Norman for the umpteenth time again. I'm curious what this dark, stuff is coming in that Kingpin kind of ushered in and why we got a black page and it just went dark on us. And I don't understand that. I don't think they set that up well enough. But maybe
Mary Jane not dead.
Yeah, Mary Jane not dead. I agree with you, Mike, that they probably should have held that for next issue so we'd be guessing. But the stuff with the One More Day thing, it did come out of nowhere, but at the same time I'm intrigued. It's like, does she remember, or was she just saying that he doesn't remember? It's very unclear there. But it's Spencer's been good at kind of teasing this stuff, and it's obvious that he's been trying to not necessarily undo what happened with them One More Day, but at least address it and maybe correct it in the future, hopefully, providing lets him. So it's got me, I don't know how I feel completely with the end of this issue where it's going, but I did like it better than the previous few. Yeah,
I mean, I agree, like the conversations were a little bit more, it's a little bit more in depth and you felt a little more emotion into the book. But yeah. I feel like Kindred is just there. Harry is there. It's just like, oh, let's make him Kindred. And we still don't know why he is Kindred.
Oh, yeah, we do. Peter did it to him.
That's it's like, okay. And then like MJ is the only one that can kind of like get through to him.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what's frustrating to me. It's just like we're rehashing something that happened almost 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to this, and it's like, come on, man. Like let's move forward. Let's get beyond this. Like, this is just another
moving forward. What? Peter doesn't move forward. I don't know what happened with my internet before. I don't know if you heard anything I said before.
Yeah, we heard everything you said.
You were just moving a little slow. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I saw someone said that Peter has to leave MJ and just be with Black Cat. Nah, that's not happening.
No.
What do you think of the issue, Brant? Oh my God, am I paused again?
A little bit.
Okay, no, good, I think. Okay. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Anyways, I think I'm moving.
Glad it's you and not me.
I think I'm good.
You're good for now.
No, this like never happens.
I know, it's weird.
God, what is going on? Okay, Brant, what did you think of the issue? I didn't hear what you said.
Basically, I agreed with you. I thought it was better in parts, but it did come out of nowhere. And I agree with Mike's point about I think they should have saved, whether she was alive or not for next issue and not revealed that right away or whatever.
You got to trust her.
Yeah.
That's so dumb. Trust me, Tiger, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and then it goes dark.
Die.
Why is it dark? I mean, because
I think they're trying to make it an homage to One More Day.
Yeah, I guess, but there's no Mephisto there, so it's like what. I don't understand why it went dark, and it didn't seem like it was tying into King in Black, so I didn't understand why it went dark.
It's definitely not tied into King in Black. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, okay, are you over Nick Spencer's run at this point?
It's hard to say. I don't think it's done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love Nick Spencer, right? It's like, I mean, not everything he's written is connected with me, but a lot of it has. And so I was so excited when he came on, and I've got mixed feelings about it. I'm over this Kindred story. I've been over this Kindred story for a long time. If that answers it.
I think that's my issue too. Like, I don't mind his writing, but this has gone on so long that it's just, I want to see something else. I want to go back to SpiderMan, like when we have 4-issue story arcs, 2-part stories, like how the series was when it first launched. Mm-hmm. When you first like saw Kindred every once in a while. And then I thought they were going to be like, okay, well, here's the story arc with Kindred. I thought it would be like 6 issues, like climactic thing. No, it's like 25 issues. Nothing's been resolved. It just keeps going. And it's like, I'm kind of over it. And I'm kind of over Nick Spencer at this point too, when it comes to the character. I really want to see a writer take this character and just do something, I don't know, maybe something completely different, something original, like if you're going to reverse One More Day, just do it already.
Yeah. Like we've said in the past, I appreciate Spencer's love for the character and the history of the character, and the way he's brought all these, old, villains and all that back, it shows his love for the character.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's just, like you said, it's gone on so long and nothing's resolved. And a lot of those little stories where he did bring people back, it was not as exciting for me as I had hoped. So, and I missed the Boomerang stuff. It's like, that was good stuff.
That was dropped. And honestly, if you're going to bring Mary Jane into it, like, don't do it half-heartedly. Like, let's just get the Mary Jane stuff. Let's see their relationship. And I think the book was actually at its height in, I think it was issue 25, that whole monologue with Mary Jane. I feel like that's when the book was like, oh man, every issue is great. And then the Kindred stuff continued to happen. Yeah. But we'll see.
It's hard because for so long we had no Mary Jane in SpiderMan. And then we finally get her back and she's not really back. And then she's
it's weird. It's kind of,
now she's dead.
Yeah.
I liked the story, like where she had to deal with Peter being Spider-Man, and she went to, like, didn't she go to Jarvis and she had to go through that group?
Yeah.
That was interesting, and it just kind of like
that was great.
Off. Yeah, it's like forget it. We're just gonna give her a movie role, and she's gonna be in this movie. So, and that was that.
And then we will never finish the story because they never even went back to that.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just kind of frustrating at this point. And, again, he's not done telling his story. So it could turn out to be really good at the end of the day. But we need to get over this. Let's get him. Let's find out how he gets into this suit. And Cat just dropped off just like that again. And that's that. I mean, that's all you can hope for, is hopefully it turns around. Get something new,
Yeah. The role of Mike and Brant, who will always drop every week, is being played by Kat this week. So
yeah, she never drops off. That's
I know. It is weird. Weird night. But yeah, I think we said plenty on that topic. If she does remember One More Day, I don't know how that's possible with what we've gotten over the years. It doesn't make sense. So
but then what's gonna be the outcome of it all?
Yeah.
So what? So she remembers. They're not married still.
Right. I don't know. They need to be together, though, I think. We all, at least us three, want that.
Yeah. So the point of her remembering means absolutely nothing unless they get married or Aunt May dies. And that's another thing. You have not seen Aunt May at all.
Yeah.
You haven't
We don't
seen
need to see her.
Her and Boomerang are hanging out somewhere.
You haven't seen J. Jonah. You haven't seen any of those characters in issues.
His other roommate and his villain girlfriend, everybody's gone. They all went on vacation together and Peter stayed behind.
That would be funny if like Boomerang comes to save the day. Hey Pete, I'm here for you. No, that would be funny. A lot of people in the comments are like, Donny Cates, Spider-Man. Donny Cates to the rescue.
It would be interesting. I feel like he'd be more mythology driven though, which I don't know how I would feel about that.
I mean, we all thought Tom Taylor would be great,
That's true, and then we didn't love his friendly neighborhood. So you really never know.
I'm pretty sure his hands were tied on that. I think they were. I think they sat there and said, okay, you need to make a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but it's not going to be any cosmic. It's not going to be any supernatural. It's only going to be street level type of stuff. And this is what you can do. So he's probably like, well, what can I do if I can't have, any other stuff that Spider-Man has dealt with? So in order to do something different, he's like, I'll make an underground, city, and they'll have underground villains.
I'll say the stuff he did with Aunt May was pretty solid, dealing with her illness and all that stuff.
I agree with you there. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
So we have some questions from like 1027. So I'm gonna go scroll back and then we'll go to our number 5. So let me get there. Give me a second. Oh, okay. This is from a while ago, but Tevye asks, if I could pull it up. There we go. Yeah. All right. How do you get the finances to make a comic? Kickstarter is a good one. And honestly, it's saving up your money, right? Yeah, Kickstarter is the answer. But I would say like it's saving your money and it's just like any other business. You got to invest in. If you're going to open up a restaurant, like how do you make money doing that?
Yeah.
Like how do you it's just like any other business. So you got to put money to make money.
Yeah, it's like when we started LEP, we have a little bit of startup cash saved up, and we poured that into our first couple of books and kind of went from there. And then we fell into the Kickstarter model a couple of years later, and that's kind of how we do it now. So
Kickstarter is definitely important. Crowdfunding in general is a big one. So like we always say, when we are promoting a Kickstarter, we're promoting it for a reason. It's literally make these books possible. So that's definitely the most. If you see a creator doing a Kickstarter and you want to support that creator, please back up their Kickstarter. Doesn't even have to be us, but yeah, if you believe in the project, it's better. That's the best way to support them.
That would be a good time to mention if we want to.
Come on. Oh my God. Am I still going slow? I'm going to switch on my phone if I'm still.
Right now, you're all right.
Yeah, right now you're all right. But
I don't know what's going on. If it happens again, I'll go on my phone instead. Okay. James says, "Do you think?" No,
that's fine. We can do it later. I was going to segue into our Kickstarter, but that's fine.
Oh, no. Go segue to our Kickstarter. Do it.
Yeah. So speaking of Kickstarter, we have a Kickstarter coming up, launching on January 26th. There is the pre-launch page. You can go to there. Kat, if you can put it in the chat when you get a chance.
Got it.
We are running a Kickstarter for Comic Book Weekly, this show, to do an audio version of the podcast. It's only going to run for a couple weeks, and it's kind of in celebration of our 7-year anniversary, which is the day that the campaign ends on. So go check that out. Follow that so you get notified the second it launches. All kinds of opportunities on this campaign to be part of this show. So if you've ever wanted to be part of this show, be on the show, produce a segment of this show, you'll definitely want to check this Kickstarter out.
For sure. I'm also going to connect on my phone just because I'd rather not be missing every other word. So give me a second. I'll be on in a second.
All right. So yeah, hopefully you guys will support the Kickstarter. It's going to be pretty cool, and it'll help this show tremendously all the way around. We're just trying to expand our horizons, continue to generate income for this actual show, for the YouTube show as well. and it will help and will deliver a better product to you. So that is our goal. All right, so let's go ahead, and Kat is back on her phone. Are you still look frozen? There, kind of. Is she?
No, yeah, you're. Can't really hear you either, Kat.
God, probably even worse to be on the phone. Oh God! All right, I'm leaving.
The color was much better on the phone.
When Kat's internet goes out, it goes out bad.
Yeah. I didn't know her walls were yellow until I saw the phone.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh, so funny. All right, so going into number 5. So we'll skip the one book because I know Kat wants to talk about it. So we'll talk about Wolverine issue 8, which is technically the 350th issue of that. Yeah. So this was a different type of issue. I wasn't a huge fan of it though. Like it was a total, I would want to say out of anything, it's like a cash grab because it's like, oh yeah, Wolverine's going to be going against Maverick in this issue, and like he doesn't even show up at all.
No, this book for me was the equivalent of a clip show on a sitcom.
Which book was this?
Wolverine.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I didn't read it.
Yeah, it was basically, kind of showing what his history with Maverick and that Team X, and kind of leading into a story where he's going to confront Maverick upcoming, supposedly not in this issue, as was teased, like Mike just said. But yeah, it was basically a clip show. You got some flashbacks and some history, and then whatever.
Even the flashbacks weren't that cool. I'm like, what's going on? So you're going to see him in the next issue. So stay tuned, guys. Maverick will be in the next issue.
Yeah, not the 350th issue.
Yeah.
The 351st issue.
He wasn't even in this issue? Wow. No. That's amazing.
He spends half his time like talking to like this CIA guy that I actually had to do research to find out. I'm like, who is this guy? And like he appeared like a couple other times in other comic books.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, this wasn't a great comic. Like I think the artwork looks pretty good in this book. I think that I can give it. And I think this Wolverine series definitely has potential. I think it's just got to keep up its momentum, a little bit here.
Yeah, the fact that he was back in Madripoor and he was Patch and nobody knew who he was and he was undercover, it's like, wait a minute, everybody knows who Patch is in Madripoor. Come on,
you're right. So it's weird. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. Wolverine's been kind of all over the place for me, but
yeah,
again, it's like it's Wolverine. It's almost you almost got to read it. It's one of those books.
Yeah.
Was that someone's number 5?
No, we didn't even do number 5. We just talked about.
She's like, let me talk about Wolverine.
Yeah, because we wanted to wait for you on that Jinny Hex and the number 5. Makes sense. Yeah, cool. We didn't know when you were coming back.
I switched my internet to the 5G version, so I think it's working much better now. So 5G. Hopefully no more 5G. See, I have good internet. I don't know why it's not working.
That's so weird.
I know. It's like it hasn't happened in years. That's why
I did tell Mike while you were gone, I didn't even know what colors your walls were until I saw it on the phone, though, because it's so different. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's like a peachish color. Well, maybe not peach. It's like a brown. Oh no, tan. Tan.
Okay, we'll go with that. It looked yellowish on your phone, believe it or not. I don't know.
It's a little tan. Might be the lighting, but it's a beautiful wall. I love it.
All right,
not
so
really.
Let's go to number 5. We'll go with Kat's number 5 instead of talking about her walls.
No, I want to keep talking about my walls. Number 5 for me was XMen. This was 2.5 stars. So, yeah, really high up there. No, it was a very okay issue. There was a lot of talk about the Krakoa Islands, which are the other island as well, where it's like, I don't quite care about that. My favorite part was probably the panel I had where they were talking about like X of Swords, like nothing actually happened. And then Cypher's like, but I got married. And then they just moved on from that.
It's kind of like they made fun of themselves.
Yeah, right? They just like, we did that 30-part event, but nothing really happened. I was curious about the ending with the new formed team that's going to be made. This seems like they're going to make like a real XMen and like this more, democracy version of it. So that was kind of interesting. But it was the end of the issue. So I was like, okay, that was too late.
Yeah. It was kind of funny when I saw I don't know if, did the art change?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the artist who did New Mutants, right?
Okay,
they've done books. Yes.
Yeah. So when I saw Phil was doing I was like, that's a weird fit for X-Men. But then I read the issue and I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense because it was a very Talking Heads kind of issue. So it kind of fit with it. But this is actually my number 5 too. It was okay. It is what it is. The islands, they don't love each other anymore, so they can't be together. They can't connect, and we got to work through that. But we're getting a new X-Men team out of it, so that's something.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, it was the same thing for me. I like the end of it, and that's all I could say. Yeah. So nothing special there. So far, most of the X books after Ten of Swords has been very underwhelming.
Except Marauders, love that issue.
Marauders was the only one that really, had me really interested. So I think it's going to take some time to get readers back into the swing of things when it comes to the story itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So all right.
What was yours, Mike?
Mine was actually Avengers.
Okay.
So again, I only read 7 books. So in any other week, it probably would not. This was just it's so weird. Like the Phoenix nests itself into like this. I forgot where it was. I don't even remember where it was that it did it. It's like where the Celestial Avengers base is or whatnot. And then they
Savage.
What's that?
Is it the Savage? Are they in the Savage Land in this?
Maybe. I don't remember. And then Dr. Doom and Captain America are fighting each other. And it's kind of like the Phoenix is pitting themselves against each other to see who's going to be fit against who's going to be the next Avatar. And Dr. Doom basically has this epiphany going, Captain America, he's never going to fall. This is what he fights for. And I want the Phoenix for power, and you won't allow me to have that. So I realize I will never be a perfect host for you. So he basically leaves, and then the Phoenix releases Captain America, and then you see basically a picture of like 12 other characters that could be, part of the Phoenix Force. So basically it's like a tournament. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, which is weird. It's a weird concept. And Namor is back because, he wants to be reunited with the Phoenix. But he's back on his world domination kick, which is...
I hate Namor for so many reasons.
You would not like King in Black Namor issue 2 then?
No, definitely not. I'm glad I skipped it.
Even when he's a young Namor.
I'm good. I don't think any age of Namor will help me like him. I think Namor just like has to forget all his memories and like not be him for me to like him.
Okay, so just be a different character altogether.
Like a different character, but like look the same. Might be okay.
Okay. So
yeah. So this issue was kind of like weird, like how it started. Yeah. It just happened to be was like, hey, Dr. Doom and Captain America are fighting, and Captain America becomes part of the Phoenix Force, and just a very odd beginning to a story arc, right?
Yeah, and it's like from where it came from last issue, where it was that total flashback issue, and then you jump right into this where they're just fighting, and Captain America's talking about what it means to him to be a hero and all this stuff, and it's like, what is going on? Why is Captain America the Phoenix now? And then he's not, and then it's like it's jumping around. It's like, what? I was very confused at first. I had to reread a couple of panels.
I did too.
Yeah.
And then when they said, "Oh yeah, it's pitting us against each other," I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, so why are you giving into this then? Why, like Captain America doesn't, I'm sure he doesn't want to be the Phoenix Force, so why is he partaking in this at all? It's like,
right. And he says it too. He's like, I don't do good with power. He's like, I'm just a normal soldier. He's like, I've held the Infinity Gauntlet and I've done this. And so
all that, yeah.
Yeah, and so like, but Doctor Doom wants the power, but the Phoenix doesn't agree with that. But then it goes with Captain America when he feels like he's a loser. So why does the Phoenix want that? Like, I don't.
But he won't give up, even though he doesn't want it. He's not. I'm not giving up.
Yeah, I can do this all day.
It made very little sense. The only thing that did make sense was they purposely kept telepaths out of the picture, out of the equation altogether, which was, okay. At least they addressed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't what I expected, I guess. So I don't know how I feel about it.
Are you gonna keep reading it though, you think?
I don't know. I'll give one more issue and see how I feel after that.
Yeah, I'll see too.
I won't be reading any issues because it doesn't sound too interesting.
Unless it's a week where I got 20 other books, I might make a on the fly decision to let it go.
Especially next month. Next month in general is going to be a lot. But before we get into other big books, we do have like a couple questions piling up. So we'll go through some questions so I can scroll back down. I don't want to lose my spot. But yeah, James asks, do you think some big time comic writers do the work for the big paycheck and then do their passion projects on the indies? I don't know. That's such a hard one to say. I feel like from my experience, the big time comic writers who are writing these books want to write them. They're passionate about it. But I do think it's a stepping stone to help those indie books sell better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Kirkman got big on his indie books, right? But he went to Marvel because he's passionate about comics. And I think that expanded, his reach even more. Than he, got even bigger at Image. But I agree with you, Kat. I think by and large, those writers are already passionate about the medium and about the stories they're telling, about the characters they grew up with. And they use that to springboard into bigger success on the indie, circuit as well. But I don't think that's the reason. I don't think they purposely go like, I'm going to go get a big paycheck just to make their indie stuff work.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions. Let me see. And then we'll get into some more. I did see some questions before, so give me a second. Just give me a second to scroll down. Okay, here's one.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say it would be funny if somebody, like a big name creator, sitting watching the show and be like, no, I totally did it for the paycheck.
I hate comics. I feel like, how do you go to Marvel and DC? It's like, oh, man, hate doing this. I think, like we were talking about burnout, I think there's some creators that might feel burnt out and be like, I've been doing this for too long, but I don't think they went into it thinking, I hate this. Because comics is such a niche medium and it's not as much as you guys think it's a big paycheck. It's not as much.
No, you got to be like one of the very rare top people to make a really good living at it, I think.
Yeah, you're not writing comics to be a millionaire.
No. I will say I do think before we get to this question, I do think that some people probably get into Marvel and DC and don't really mesh with the level of control or lack of control that they have over characters and prefer to move to indie stuff. I think that's totally a thing.
For sure. And I do believe this is the bigger question or a bigger answer to going into indies, like why people would go into comics if they don't like comics. Because there are definitely people that do it, but it's more of the reason of IPs to get into television. So getting into comics and writing comics, it's an easier way to sell to a network and say, I have a comic book. Do you want to, buy my show? So there is a lot of screenwriters that will get into comics. That way they have a bigger reason to sell their property. So it's less about going into Marvel and DC. Like if you're going to Marvel and DC, you probably really love comics because you do not own those characters and you're making even less money. Now, if you're going into indie comics, you might not actually like the medium. And I'm not saying I personally experienced this, but I could see the mentality of that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
The other question is Gonzo. Anyone look at Kickstarter? Boom just started a collection of Power Rangers. Again, it's a new age for comics.
Yeah, I actually just showed this to Kat today. Lisa told me about it. She saw it. So yeah, it's like they had that massive success with Keanu Reeves' book, and now they're back with another property. So.
And it'll get funded. You'll see.
Oh, it's
already funded.
Yeah, it's last time I looked at it, which was hours ago. It was like at 127,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think their goal was like 25 or 30 or something like that.
25 or 30?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
That's nuts. I saw another question from Midwest, but we'll get to the other questions after. Let's go into the next book.
All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is Jinny Hex Special, issue 1. I actually really like this book. This book was a lot of fun. Really dove deep into the character, where she came from, who her father was, what's in that chest, what her father wanted with that chest, what the item was that it did, and just like her best friend, just everything about the book was just a really well-written story. And this was a nice surprise. I always wanted to learn more about that character in Young Justice. We talked about it last week, and this was a perfect story for that. And it kind of leaves it open-ended by the time you get done reading it, going, hey, maybe we could have a Jinny Hex series on our hand in the future, you know? So I thought it was a great story, and I love how, you know, it was a father-daughter story, and she finds her father, and it kind of, you know, she got slapped in the face by it. I felt bad for her as a character, and she almost lost her best friend too.
Yeah,
it was a roller coaster ride, right? Like, you open this book and you're like, okay, it's just gonna be this fun-loving whatever, and then you read it, it's just like, this isn't a debut issue. Where's issue 2? What's going on? You just set up all this stuff. I want to know more about Jinny. Like, she was. It really built the world so nicely, and I think it hit a beat that every debut issue should. And I was actually kind of sad that it was just a one-shot, because I agree. Like, you introduced a friend, you introduced a dad, and Jinny's voice felt unique but also familiar. I really like this book, and that's why when I read it, I was like, "You guys got to read this book. It's really, really good." Yeah,
and usually when Kat recommends something to us, it is really good, and we're thankful that we read it. And this was that case for me too this week. I love this book. I thought it was fantastic. And like everybody, like a couple of people said in the comments, and you just said, Kat, I wish this was an ongoing or at least a mini series or something, like we were going somewhere from here. And, I hope somebody picks up the thread. If it's not the same writer, if it's somebody else, I just want to see more of this, both these characters, her and Lady Bird, as she called her friend.
Yeah.
I can't remember what her actual name was, but there was so much to love in this, and so much like character growth. I think we got a lot more of her than we did in Young Justice, and there was obviously enough in Young Justice to hook the character for a lot of people, and for us, it's like, okay, this is a really interesting take on the Hex family or whatever, and so I think they what's the writer's name again? I keep forgetting. Is it
Mags? I know it's Mags. I never know the full name. Yeah. So I was going to say Mags.
Mags. Yeah. Mags, took that ball and ran with it and just built this beautiful, backstory for her, and, created this, really interesting character and interesting supporting cast around her too. So, and the fact that what happens with her best friend at the end, and then they go on this adventure together, it's like, man, this is totally something I want to read more of. So,
right, like this definitely feels like a series that I actually would be really looking forward to reading every month. Like, what a shame. And I think what was cool about it too is that easily, I think Lady Bird and Jinny could have been love interests, because we do know Jinny's a queer character. I'm so glad they didn't go that direction, because we don't get to see like, two ladies. I don't know if Lady Bird's queer, but Jinny being queer and just like having a friend and not really diving into romance right away, just because there's so little queer representation. I thought that was really cool as well, that they were just friends, and that was awesome.
Yeah, and that's fine, because I think if you do that, I think you kind of dive into too many emotional aspects in a story. So, like, I like how it was just a pure friendship, and you really focused on the initial family of Jenny, about, of her father and her mother, and how she dealt with that death, and how she got to see her mother one last time, but then she had to see her mother die again. There was just so many emotional attachments. I think if you added that element in this particular point in the story, it just would have been, I think, a little bit too much. Then they would try to fit too many emotional elements in there.
Yeah, it's perfectly balanced.
I think sometimes you just need to have a friendship instead of turning it into a romantic thing, which like you said, Kat, I think that was the right choice in this particular case. I actually saw Mags on Twitter talk about that, where she said that they weren't going to be a couple, that they were going to remain friends as long as she had any say of it. And I thought that was cool. I think that's it's I think it takes guts to do that, to not go the obvious route and just kind of make them friends and set them on this adventure together. So especially
in a teen book, and again, a queer character, I feel like fandoms get so quickly. It's like ship, they looked at each other, and it's nice to explore something different. And I thought it was right the way they did it here. But yeah, great book. I loved it. And it's a shame because I did an interview with Mags for the book. Not that it's a shame that I did an interview, but I was going to say it's a shame. It's a shame because when I did the interview, I asked if there was going to be another, and she said maybe if this whole COVID thing didn't happen and everything that happened with Diamond, it would have been an easier shot to sell it. But now it's going to be harder. And I was like, oh man, I was like, damn it. I hope this book sells. I don't know if it's sold, enough for it to warrant like a Spider-Gwen, where she sold so much that was a surprise. I'm sure it sold well, but I don't know if it sold enough for DC to be like, we need to give this a miniseries or an ongoing series.
Yeah, I would love to see it just do a miniseries and then again see where it goes from there.
What I also love about this character in general is that so many times we see when you take a popular character and you do a spin-off character that's based on that, or it's different gender, like it is in this case where she's a girl and Jonah Hex is obviously a guy. It's to sell books, right? It's not, it's for the sake of doing it. It's not for they're not cool characters. They're like cookie cutter copies of those original characters, and I think they did something completely different with Jinny here.
Yeah,
definitely her own person. Yeah.
And even the reference to Jonah, the way they did that was really interesting. Serenity wants them to be together because he loves love. That was his comment. I think there's some. I love romance stories. Yeah. I love seeing it, but I think there's a time and a place, and just depends on the characters. And this felt refreshing at the time.
All right, cool. I'm glad we all like that. So let's move forward to our number 4 then. So my number 4 this time was, I guess it was Batman Annual. That's where it was.
Mine too.
Was it?
Yeah.
What was yours, Brett?
Any other week. But, King in Black, Iron Man, Dr. Doom.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's talk about it.
To be honest. It was okay. I mean, it was another book that was just kind of there. It was like this and X-Men and Batman all kind of were in the same area for me. So it was just like, but it's always interesting seeing Tony and Doom interact and their similarities and their differences, always at play with each other. And I think that's interesting that their motivations are completely opposite, but they connect on so many levels. So I think that was the saving grace here. Other than that, it was just kind of there. There wasn't a whole lot to the story.
I don't understand why we needed it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you probably didn't. Yeah.
You did get Tony, because this deals right after, I guess, Eddie's death, and you get Tony feeling for him dealing with that. And so, but you got to love, like you said, the interactions with Dr. Doom and Tony, because he has that suit and he's just he just really wants that suit. He just likes how brilliant that it is. And, but the whole thing with Santa Claus was hilarious.
That was the best part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evil Santa Claus. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's symbiotic. And it actually wasn't really Santa. He's like, are you real? And then he's like, oh wait, it's just the Santa that works at the mall or whatever it is.
That's what got me the most about it, I think, was that Tony Stark, of all people, who believes in science above all else, is admitting that maybe Santa Claus is real. And he made a good point, though. It's like, we got an alien guy from a different world, like, that's encapsulated the entire Earth in a black goo, and we can't believe it's Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I like the art in sometimes, like in most times, and I think what was cool is him the cursing and emoji Christmas.
Oh yeah, that was
whatever.
Cool.
So that was fun. Definitely not a bad issue. I just feel like if this was next week, I wouldn't have picked this up, right? Like because it was such a small week, I was like, it was fun, but I don't know if like I'll remember this a month from now. I honestly don't know if I remembered it this week.
I honestly didn't remember the Santa thing until Mike said it. So it was like, why is this here?
But I can tell you that this was better than Namor.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Namor sucks.
I read the first issue, and it doesn't tie into King in Black at all so far. And then I read the second issue, and this one doesn't tie into it either.
They referenced something somewhere about the
dark tide.
The dark tide that's going to come into play somehow.
Right. So the people that he teams up with in Namor, they become the dark tide.
Right.
So somewhere down the line, this dark tide is going to help, I guess, Namor. So they used to be his friends, and then they became enemies, and something's going to happen. But as of right now, if you're reading that series, you're like, really? Like, this is tying into King in Black? So it's so uneventful right now. I mean, again, I'm going to read it to keep reading it because it's King in Black, but I'm going to see. When does it actually tie in?
Yeah. It won't ever.
Probably not. It's just the title. It's just the backstory that they couldn't fit in the main book.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever connect.
Yeah.
So
we're all right. Number 4? Oh no, we're done with number 4. No, Mike, did you do your number 4?
What's that?
Did you do your number 4? What was your number 4?
I just said it. Mine was I even forgot Batman.
Oh, right. So we both had Batman. That's why.
Yeah. Okay. So now we talked about Avengers already. So we're just going to jump into number 3. And my number 3 was Brant's number 4, Iron Man and Dr. Doom.
Okay.
So I actually like the artwork in that book too. I thought it was kind of cool too.
I liked most of it. I thought for the mecha stuff, they needed to be more
detailed.
Yeah, well, not just more detailed, but like the line work was rough for mecha for me. I think it needs to be exact line work for mecha stuff. That's just a nitpick of mine, though.
Right. Okay. What'd you say about the Namor book, Serenity? What did you say?
Back. Let me find it. Where the hell is it? Is this it? No. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm liking the Namor book. It's tying in Cause, the Unforgotten Whatever is one of Noel's babies. They showed an ancient symbiote ship in this issue.
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't even remember this ship. Maybe I don't even remember. It's like it's like Little Mermaid on steroids. That book, man. It's all these people under the water and they're fighting and they got captured. They were supposed to recover this black stone that's supposed to be really bad.
I guess the name Unforgotten is not appropriate then because we all forgot it. Forgotten whatever.
His name should have been forgotten.
So that was my number 3 was Santa Claus and King in Black. So, Kat, what was yours?
Mine was SpiderMan. We already talked about it.
It's mine too.
Cool. And all right, so we're gonna move along here to number 2, and because we did
all our big books.
What's that? Yeah, there's no more big books.
Yeah.
My number 2. It's funny, like I felt like I liked Spider-Man the least, but it was like my number 2. It was my number 2.
I mean, when you compare it to other books,
Yeah. So that was mine. What was yours, Kat?
Mine was Power Pack.
Okay.
Mind blowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Mine's Power Pack too. So I think Kat and I have the same top 3.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, I think because last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, we had like almost the same top 5. We had the same top 5.
And
exactly.
Number 1, I'm assuming, is Jinny Hex for Brant, Jinny Hex for Kat, and it was Jinny Hex for me.
Nice.
It was like it was so easy this week. It's just this is number 1.
Yeah. It's super easy. This was a rough week for comics, man. But this week we're gonna pay for it, and it's my god, I don't know how I'm gonna read all these books in time.
I don't know either.
I honestly, I'm more worried about the week after, because I'm getting like 22 or something books, like 25 books or something. So I don't know. We're gonna see how that works out. Tomorrow I'm getting like 14, so it shouldn't be too bad.
No, I'm getting like 20. I'm getting 20.
It's gonna be fun, but we're gonna have a lot of future state books to talk about. I guess we'll do our most anticipated, and then we'll get to the Q&A section. So if you guys have more questions, let us know, and we'll do a little Q&A.
There is a chopping block on here.
There is.
Brand, right?
It is me, yes. Wolverine, which we talked about kind of. It's just I did not like this issue at all, so I don't want to continue with it until this story arc is over at least. So it's gone.
It's like it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. All right, so I'm still sorting out the most anticipated, but we'll go into it because there's a lot here. Let's just lump all the future state books in together.
Yeah.
So we'll do that first, and
also a question for you guys for next week, and I guess for us too. How do you want to cover do we want to cover the future state books like we did X of Swords and talk about it all at once, or do we just want to talk about like the top 5 future state books? I'm not sure how we want to deal with that. And top 5 is in like the 5 biggest, and then like the leftovers we could talk about after. I kind of planned it in doing it that way, so we'll talk like the biggest 5 or whatever, like the biggest ones, and then if we have some left at the end after our top 5, we could talk about the others.
How many are there coming out? Is it 7?
Yeah, there's a good amount. I don't know if we want to talk about future states so long back to back. That's why if we want to spread it out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 6 or 7, but you also have Generation Shattered that comes out.
Yeah. Okay, so basically 8.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know. I just think we should just talk about I guess the books that we liked the most, maybe, or just give a quick rundown of it, separate it from the rest. I think.
Yeah.
So you rather do it instead of the way we usually do it, okay, here's a DC book, here's a Marvel book. You rather just do all the future state books and then the Marvel book and then the indie?
Yeah, I think we should just separate it. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do it that way. It's going to be, we're going to test out the waters. So let us know how obviously you guys like it too, so we could figure it out. But I think, we'll try that for next week. We got 2 months of this. So
maybe what we should do is while future state is around, not do the radar and just
do future state books.
Do a future state segment instead of the under the radar.
Yeah, we could even cut chopping block too. We'll just cut both of those for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. We'll talk future state up top, and then only talk Marvel and indie for the big books, and our top 5 we'll mix around.
So, all right. So as far as tomorrow or today, depending on when you get your books, the next Batman #1, Wonder Woman #1, Superman Metropolis, Harley Quinn, Swamp Thing, The Flash, and then Generation Shattered. Those are the future state books that are this week. I think we've talked about before. Wonder Woman was one that I think most of us were, looking forward to. The next Batman has been, everybody's been talking about that one. So those are the 2 of these that I'm probably anticipating the most.
Me too. The other ones, I really don't love Superman all the time, so I'm not really that excited for Superman. Harley Quinn, I also don't quite love her ongoing series. I love her as a character, but I like when she interacts with people more than just herself. Swamp Thing, I don't quite care about too much. The Flash, I guess, out of the ones I'm not as interested in, I'm most interested in.
Yeah.
Just because anything could happen. Then Generation Shattered, I know nothing really about it.
Right. the Generation Shattered one is where you're going to get the different timelines of like your character. So like Batman is going to be from like when he first became Batman, and you're gonna have Sinestro when he was a Green Lantern, and you're gonna have Superman like when he was a Superboy, and they're all going to be teaming up with each other to do some kind of mission. So it's going to be all these different timelines of these characters that you know, and how are they all going to get along with each other, which could be interesting actually.
Yeah, I'm so interested to see where DC, what their plans are like in general, and I'm stoked for Future State and everything that has to go along with it.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on from Future State, let's talk some King in Black. We got Return of the Valkyries. Number 1.
So excited for that book.
That's going to be cool.
I'm more excited for that book than maybe some of the Future State books, actually. Like, I am really anticipating that one. Yeah,
for sure. Let's see. We got Venom number 32, which I hope is better than 31 was.
I hope he falls again.
The only thing I can see now is that you're going to see Eddie, like, dead. Yeah. And you're going to see in his mind, I think.
Pages, and there's nothing that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So
that's what I'm predicting to happen, at least.
Okay. I'm just going to mention this one real quick. Star Wars: The High Republic, number 1. I think it's interesting because it's like the golden age. It's before the Skywalker saga and all that. So I'm kind of curious, what that story is exactly, because I never read like a lot of the original EU novels and all that stuff. So I want to see what they do with this.
Yeah, I've been on the fence about. I don't know if I'm going to buy this though.
It's a lot of books. So
yeah.
Book we're all looking forward to, Firepower number 7.
So excited. This book never lets me down. I might be like mine. Like I'll read Valkyries and then Firepower and then next Batman. Like that's where it's at right now.
Yeah,
I think I can read Firepower first because it's always like a minute and 30 seconds to read that book.
Yeah. If you guys have not checked out Firepower from Image Comics, you definitely got to read it. It's so good. Let's see. We got Eternals number 1.
I'm not picking it up.
And it's funny. Jaime says, or Jamie says, let's talk about all the Eternal variants.
Yeah.
He ain't kidding, man. There's about 12 or 13 variants. I was doing my top 10 comic book covers of the week. Yeah. And I went to the page where it showed all the comic book covers for that book. And I'm like, how do I even pick a cover for this? Like, it's insane how many there are. There is so many of them.
They planned 37 covers for the book, Mike. 37. Can you imagine?
And you guys you're getting Eternals, definitely?
I don't know.
I think I'm going to buy number 1 because maybe it might get me familiar with the characters a little bit. So when this movie eventually does come out, I have somewhat of an idea about the Eternals because I really don't know anything about them at all.
Me either.
I mean, I've read some Eternal stuff in the past, but you guys know that I'm kind of hot and cold on Kieran Gillen.
Same.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know. I'll probably.
It also looks like it's space related, so I'm like,
yeah,
you're horrible with space. So.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, I think I could skip that. And there's so many books coming out. I don't want to leave Marvel high and dry, but I think I could skip Eternals issue 1.
I will probably get it. Just we'll see though. I'll make it. I'll make it.
And then it gets lower and lower the percentage that you're gonna actually get it.
I just lost my window. Where'd it go? Let's get back to some more books. Iron Man number 5, which we've all been really enjoying.
Yeah. Patsy.
Poor Patsy. Yeah, she's been taken over by.
I'm trying to remember what happens at the end of the issue. Like
they hooked up.
She's hooked up. She's got scars.
Yeah, she was seeing what he was seeing and vice versa, and then he started
took over her.
Yeah,
that's right. That's how it ended.
Yeah. So now we got to see what happens from there, and how much damage she does against Tony there. So, interesting stuff. We got The Wrong Earth, Night and Day. I think I'm the only one that reads that series. So I'm excited to see it come back. It's always a fun read from Ahoy Comics. Crossover number 3, which is something we mentioned that earlier in the show. Somebody in the comments did. That's been a solid series so far too. A lot of cameos and stuff in there. So that's cool.
I think it's going to get better as it goes along, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I agree. Dark Knight's Death Metal number 7, which Kat will tell us she can't talk about.
I can't, but you guys should read it because a lot happens.
Yeah. Are you getting it, Mike? You said you might.
I'll get it. I have not read issues 5 or 6.
You don't need to read any of the rest.
I read issues 1 through 4, and then I just got tired of all the death metal stuff that kept on coming out. So I guess I'll get 7, obviously, to complete the series and then to read what happens at the end.
Yeah.
But you really don't need to read the previous issues, because I was a little behind too, because I read them back to back for an interview, and then I didn't read issue 5 or 6, I think, as well. And then I just read this issue and I understood what was going on. I think the only thing you might be a little lost with is like what's going on with Wonder Woman, but it's definitely more about like explaining the continuity of DC and like how it's changed.
Okay.
And that's why I'm like, you have to read it because it has a lot to do with the future of DC Comics, I'll say.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably read it then for that reason. I usually read stuff when you recommend it for that reason.
I don't recommend it because I think that the story is going to be for you, though. So if you don't like it, I'm
not going to blame you. Come on.
Yeah. I'm glad. I will say, like, in that regard, read it because of like the information that's in it.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to like our taste. Because the reason I hadn't been reading death metal is just because my taste didn't fit it. And it still doesn't fit it, even with the finale. But I see where it's going. And I'm like, oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed Last Stories. So maybe I'll like something in it. We'll see. And I think the last book we have to talk about is Thor. So
I'm getting Thor because Jane's in it.
Jane's in it, yeah.
Thor's a must read, man. Thor was honestly my #1 series that I read in 2020.
Wow.
Like, I love that series. It's so good. Just everything from the very first issue to what could be coming to this whole Donald Blake story arc. Like, this Donny Cates got, he wrote about a character that I really wasn't keen on. Like, I didn't like Thor that much. Like, I could never get into the character. And he put a twist on it where it's so creative and so expansive that it adds all these different elements to these characters. It's the same thing that he did in Venom too. If it's like, if you never cared about Venom and you thought he was this mindless creature that eats brains, well, look what he did to him. So I love Thor. I can't wait for this issue.
Your audio went underwater there in the middle of that, Mike, just so you know.
We heard what you said.
But we heard what you said, yeah. Thor's been great, and I'm really enjoying this current arc with the return of I keep forgetting this stupid name.
Jane Foster, yeah.
Yeah, Jane Foster is awesome, of course.
Donald Blake.
Donald Blake, yeah. I wanted to say Eric Masterson for some reason, but it was Donald Blake, yeah. So it's been really good. I'm looking forward to it. But that's all of our most anticipated, so.
Yes, so we have a couple of questions we'll go through. So last minute questions, guys, and then we're probably going to head off. But I didn't want to ignore the questions we have here. So first up, Midwest Punk. Do you all have any tips starting a YouTube channel? Let's pass it on to Mike first.
The one tip I can say when it comes to YouTube is have a plan, have a schedule, and be consistent. And you got to have the drive to do it. If you don't have the drive to do it and you think it's going to be easy, don't do it because it's not easy. And you got to have the work ethic to do it. Okay? Come up with a plan. Be consistent, have a schedule. If you just shoot videos anytime, there's no rhyme or reason, or you don't have a niche or something different, then it's not going to work. And also, be patient. because it's not going to come right away. It's harder now more than ever to get anywhere, to get discovered on YouTube. It's very hard, you know, even to the point of where my channel is at. I am no big channel whatsoever. I have like 8,300 subscribers. Kat's got 14,000 subscribers. She's been doing her YouTube channel for a long time, and we're always looking for tips and tricks and things like that to make our channels better. And, you know, it's taken us a long time just to get to this point. You know, some people, they get it and they land it, you know what I'm saying? But if you're doing a comic book YouTube channel, it's hard because we're a specific audience. It's very difficult. Now, if you're doing something else, you know, who knows? It could take off, but it's not easy work. It's definitely hard.
Before Kat gives hers, I just want to say this is every single thing Mike said is the reason that my personal YouTube channel just sits there with no new content, and why I focus on the group channel.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the question I believe the same person had before is like, how do I start writing? It's kind of the same thing as like, you also have to find your voice. Like there's so many other people on YouTube. Like, how do you make yourself different? And also it's like learning the analytics of YouTube and what Mike was saying, hey, we're doing this for a long time, but both me and Mike, and we both ask each other questions. How do we make our audiences grow? It's never just say, I'm good here. It's like, no, you want to be better and better, and you keep trying to be better and better. And you don't want to be a one-trick pony. That was a really great question. There's a question I don't particularly want to answer, but I also don't want to ignore it, so I'll answer it. Tevia says, how do you feel about the term SJW? I know this term is used way too much, but do you think the term could be used positively? I would say I'm an SJW, right? I think anyone, right? Like, so yeah, I would say it can be used positively. I think that for me, what it just means that you want equality and you want everyone to have a voice in comics or whatever medium. So yes, I think it's a positive thing. And I don't love that people use it negatively.
I agree. I don't, just because we see it in comics today, I don't think it's this derogative thing. I don't think there's this mission to push it down your throat. I think it's just trying to change things up, make things equal. I mean, that's really my opinion of it. I don't feel like someone has an agenda, to change things up. I mean, for years and years, we were stuck one way. Now that the world has changed, why can't comics change with it? Right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're expanding your horizons. And if you're so narrow-minded that you don't want things to change, then I think that's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it.
And I think that's where the negative connotation comes from those people that don't want change.
Right.
Yeah, and this comic industry is not going to grow with no change. You have to let it let it grow. Yeah. And I think what people's worry is that they're going to be like, well, then I will never have Captain America or Peter Parker or these other characters. Like, those characters still exist and you're still going to see stories with them. It just means that we also want to have other voices and we also want to have diverse characters and to reflect the world that we live in. So that's always been my opinion on it. And yeah, obviously it's kind of a difficult subject for people, but yeah, I definitely wanted to express that and let it be known and not ignore the question either.
Yeah.
Bavarian asks, any of you excited for the Alien books in March or the Alien variants? I don't think I'm getting any of them. Like, I like Aliens, but I don't think enough to get a comic. I don't know. Like, I like the movie. Do I have to see more of it?
I personally hate Aliens, so no.
Well, I mean, the cover, there's this one Venom cover that's getting ready to come out. I think it's coming out this week. Is it this week? I did, because I did top 10 comic book covers, and it was my #1 cover of the week. And it has a face-to-face with Venom and an alien face-to-face with each other. It actually looks really, really cool. It's this week's cover of Venom, but it's a variant cover. It looks super realistic. It's so cool. If there's anyone that I'm going to buy, it's going to be that one. I do want to see a story though with the characters and them dealing with the aliens. I think that could be a potentially really good story, actually.
I definitely would want to see crossover. Like if there was a big event where like the aliens from Aliens show up to fight Spider-Man, like I'll read that. Right. But I don't know if I particularly need an Aliens book just within that franchise. Like
I think you could see like them being the next version of like the Brew. I could definitely see that actually happening.
That'd be interesting. Classic Aliens horror. I definitely like to see that.
Right.
So Willie asks, and Brant's like, no, I won't be reading that event. Willie asks, which generation of music do you think is the best, 80s or 90s? Or for him, it's 80s or 90s. See, I don't like picking a generation because I think every generation has something good to offer.
Yeah, that's kind of where I meant, because I was thinking about that. I misunderstood it at first too. I thought he was asking 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I like stuff from the 80s. I like stuff from the 90s. So it's, yeah, I think it depends on your taste in music too. I think every decade or whatever has some really strong offerings though.
I mean, when I grew up, you know, I was into like the hair metal bands, like, you know, Poison, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, like Guns N' Roses. And, you know, I was into all that. And I liked Metallica, of course. And like, I liked all that. And then, you know, then we got into the grungy stuff. And so I listened to all that Seattle, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, like Stone Temple Pilots, like all that stuff. I listened to Pearl Jam. And then like, you see all that again, all music changes. And now as I've gotten older, like I don't listen to the newer stuff of that. Like I listen to like top 40 stuff because my kids or my daughter listens to it, or my wife listens to it. I find myself enjoying it. And then I like actually listening to old like rap music or pop music now. You know, there's certain things I didn't listen to when I was a kid because I was so stuck in my metal days or whatever the case may be. I didn't look at other music. But I think same thing. You got to have this broad horizon of music and just enjoy all types of music. Makes it so much more enjoyable.
I'm sorry, Kat.
No, you go.
It's so funny because Mike, you and I are completely different in our taste. Because when I was younger, I listened to a lot of R&B and hip hop and that kind of stuff. You know, and I loved R&B, and I listened to like a lot of Michael Jackson and stuff like that too, as far as pop goes. But yeah, it was all like New Edition, Boyz II Men, all that kind of stuff. And then when I got older, like in my mid to late teens, I started getting more into pop. And then as I got older, I started listening to more, you know, diverse stuff, more indie stuff, more rock, more different. Yeah, so I'm very eclectic though. I listen to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to like kind of the question, it's interesting because I always see like this versus match of like what's better, like what's the better decade, like the decade I grew up in or decade you grew up in. And I just feel like there's something special about every decade. You know, I feel like we have enough battling in the world. Like I would rather appreciate someone else's decade and be like, oh, that's really cool. That came from like Michael Jackson came from the 80s. Like I like this song and that song. Like I wasn't born in the 80s, but I still enjoy that music. So I think appreciating other people's generations is what we should look into more than just saying my generation's better.
Yeah. I mean, I got into the Doors. Like I listened to the Doors. I listened to Zeppelin. There's just so much stuff out there that, you know, you should explore that other music because it's great to see the talents of so many people. You know, nowadays we have so much music that's a lot of it's done by computer. You know what I'm saying? It's all, you know, now I love listen to music in the past of instruments and things like that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Those are actually all the questions. So I think we're going to start wrapping up. So thank you guys for filling up the show, even though we did not have a news section. This is one of our longer episodes.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys. So, we'll wrap it up. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Comic Book Weekly. So whether you're on Comic Frontline, my channel, Comic Book Corner 2.0, or on the Facebook group page, Comic Book Corner 2.0 Webheads Unite, You can find us on all of those. So thank you so much. Brant just flashed our Kickstarter. Again, we have our link there in the chat. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be coming shortly. And like usual, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell. Don't forget to like and follow us on social media. So until next time, and next time is going to be a huge show with Future State and everything. This is Comic Book Weekly and the whole crew signing off. We'll see you next week, guys. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.